Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of the South Florida Tribune. My name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth, and we are live here on this Friday night after New Year's. Motormouth and Wild Bill Winters. And Bill, welcome back to the big show, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Scott. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thanks. Just gearing up for LA, but got to make sure that we're in sync and keep this bad boy rolling. So, ready for a good episode here, Bill?
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful. All right, well, so let's talk about the officiating. Do you think that that's going to be a concern this weekend, or do you think that the NFL will finally get it right?
Well, one never knows these days. I can tell you that I can't remember a year of watching sports where I've watched these calls being blown the way they are and really changing the landscape of the game. I mean, the Ohio State game was ridiculous. And then out of the blue, there's a targeting call. And I know that, we want to protect players, and I know that we want to get it right, but when it starts dominating the game and changing the landscape, and the worst thing about it is they don't get it right. And, I can remember, it was a great game, and all of a sudden, there was a pass interference call that was so obvious that they didn't call it. You sat back and right away you start thinking there's something going on here. It was so egregious. And then the targeting call. There's a lot of Ohio State fans, and there was 3 or 4 other calls during the course of the game that you just kind of sat back and, at the end of the game, a lot of the people from Ohio State were screaming that they got robbed. And, it's just like you don't want to see that be a part of the game. And then we have the playoff games this weekend, and hopefully, they'll get it right. And I will tell you that there are some officiating crews that do a really good job. There are other ones that just do a horrible job. All I can tell you is we got to keep working on that because it's not an exact science. But I can't remember a year in sports where it's been this bad.
Well,
it's so obvious.
Let me tell you, being an old school journalist like I am, getting it right is something that we always pride ourselves in this industry. And the reason why I say that is back during the old day when, I believe it was 1981, when Ronald Reagan's assassination attempt took place. And I'll never forget ABC commentator Frank Reynolds really, really showed a lot of emotion on the air. And his attitude was, I don't want to be the first. I don't want to be here first. I want to get it right, because at that particular point, Bill, you're talking about ABC, CBS, and NBC trying to report on the facts, and Frank Reynolds, Bill, absolutely blew a gasket. And I mean a gasket on the air. I mean, yeah, if you can only see it, you know what I mean, to understand how this guy was. And, again, I don't care whether it's football, whether it's in our industry, media, it's all about getting it right. And sometimes you wonder whether or not anybody ever does do that. And there are ways to try to get it straightened out. And unfortunately, we can't take advantage of all the technology, or maybe perhaps we're overthinking these situations.
Well, I think we're overthinking these situations to the point now where it's being subjective, and these are judgment calls. And, they don't really need, unless, the way I look at it is, if it's obvious, to use the technology to make the right call. And a lot of times the officials do a really good job of it. Or I watched a game where, a flag was thrown and they decided not to call it because it was, you could see the videotape and it was, it wasn't done on purpose and it was just part of the game. So I thought that was really good. Then there was a game between Ohio State, the Ohio State game where it was just absolutely ridiculous. And, the worst thing about it is that, we have safety as such a concern now that some of these targeting calls are completely subjective. I mean, the Ohio State player, they made a hell of a play. It changed the entire course of the game. Ohio State was winning the game. Clemson would have been forced to punt. and all the guy did was come in and make a great defensive play, and he got a tall quarterback that drops his head, and they bang heads. Next thing you know, there's a targeting call, and it came from upstairs. And you just sit back and go, this is a little bit too much. You got to rein it in a little bit. And stop being so needy with some of these calls. Unless it's obvious, let the guys play. It's just, it just kind of got to a point where you don't want to watch the games anymore because it's being controlled by a third party called the officials. And that's the last thing you want.
Well, I got to tell you this, Bill. Interesting points here. And when I think of hockey, and I don't think there's any better playoffs than hockey, these officials will tend to swallow the whistle, leave it in their pocket, and they let these guys play unless it's a real obvious penalty. And I don't know how you feel about the NHL playoffs, but I think they're definitely the best of the four major sports for sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you there. I haven't been watching a lot of hockey these days because it's not on television as much as it used to be. I just think that we don't need to have to be so anal about trying to get it right. If it's an obvious pass interference call, if it's people can see it and make the call. But you don't seem to kind of pull it up out of thin air because nobody was watching the game, including the 50 million people that are watching and see it. But all of a sudden you got a flag and you're going back and you're watching and going, that wasn't done on purpose. That's just a good football play.
Right.
So, we got to institute that, and it's a learning curve for everybody. And I think some crews do a really good job, and other crews do a horrible job. But I put my foot down when it changes the landscape of the game and swings the momentum of the game because some third party's arbitrarily making a call that they think they have to make that maybe should have just been left alone because it's just part of the game like hockey.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, what else can you say? You have all this technology, but once again, I'll go back to my favorite word for the broadcast bell, overthinking it.
Yes.
And what else can I say? So with that said, let's go on to the NFL playoffs. They begin this weekend. We'll talk about every game. You can break them down. And we'll start off with the Buffalo-Houston game. Break them down game by game, Bill. Who do you predict and why?
Well, I like Houston in this game. They're at home. They have the home field advantage. I just believe that the Texans have won the division a few times. They've been in the playoffs. They know how to play in the playoffs, and this will be the first time that Buffalo has been in the playoffs. They're on the road. You have to learn how to go through the playoffs. They have a young team. It's a learning curve. But I just think the Texans will win this game. And, I think they're due because they've been knocked out in the playoffs the last few years. And this time they're going to get by and go to the next round.
Yeah, actually, Buffalo lost the playoff game against the Jacksonville Jaguars a couple of years ago, and I was actually at that game. It was a 10-3 loss over at TIAA Bank Field. I guess that's what they call it these days. It was a defensive game. And, I still like the upside of Buffalo. I like where they're going with the Bills. And Josh Allen is starting to become one of the better quarterbacks in his draft class for sure. I think the key to this game, though, Bill, is whether Will Fuller is playing. If Will Fuller is in action, I think the Texans are a tough out. If for some reason he doesn't play in the contest, then all of a sudden I give Buffalo a puncher's chance in this because they'll double team DeAndre Hopkins all day long, and you'll be forced to go ahead and see if the running game with Houston can beat you. And Buffalo doesn't have a bad running attack either when you consider you have Frank Gore and Devin Singletary in the backfield.
I totally agree with you, Scott. No argument there. Will Fuller takes the top off the defense. I think they rested him again. I have him ready for the playoffs. I think that's going to be a huge difference. But also, J.J. Watt's coming back. So that's going to be huge. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays. So I think that's going to inject the defense a little bit and give them some more guys up front, to rush the passer and play the run. So it's going to be a really close game, but I like the Texans. The Texans usually win these close games.
Okay, well, that's fair. Okay, let's talk about a game that a lot of people are interested in, Bill. The Tennessee Titans against the New England Patriots. New England's playing in rarefied air. They're actually playing in the first round. You got Ryan Tannehill against Tom Brady. Bill. So do you think this will be Tom Brady's final hurrah with New England, or do you think he stays another year? And let's talk about the hot quarterback play of Ryan Tannehill.
All right. Well, Tannehill has never won in New England. This is the first time the Titans have been in the playoffs in a while. And I just think that, you're going up against the defending champions. And I just think, a lot of people think that, they're up against the Patriots because they think this is it. We've gone through this the last couple of years. But, I think New England it's going to win up there. I think it's going to be a really close game. I think they'll figure out a way to slow down Derrick Henry and the run. And, what New England always does is they take rookie quarterbacks in the playoffs and they give them headaches by, disguising the defense just like they did the Goff last year up in the Rams. So I just think that, people are counting out the Patriots, and a lot of people think the Titans are going to win this game. But I'm going to go with the defending champions. I'm not going to go against Brady. And I'm going to look at the numbers this time, and Tannehill's never won up there. And they do a really good job of starting rookie quarterbacks in playoffs games, taking away from what they do best.
Yeah, I'm going to go
I just think the Patriots will win.
I'm going to go with New England too, but I think the X factor in this game, Bill, is James White. You talk about a very versatile target. The guy can catch the football. He can go ahead and run. And, again, he's come up big in Super Bowl. So if Tom Brady can get James White involved, then I think that the Patriots will definitely get through round one. What happens after this round will be anybody's guess, but they are the defending Super Bowl champs, and I don't think they're ready to bow out quite yet. So,
yeah, well, they're kind of depleted. So, like I said, a lot of people are going the other way, Scott, but I'm going to go with you and think New England's going to win this game as well.
Yeah, and again, the loss to the Miami Dolphins showed that there were some vulnerabilities with the Patriots as well. Let's give the Miami Dolphins credit, Bill. They walked into New England and they played a heck of a football game and were able to get a win up there, especially during the winter time. So more power to them. So
yeah, New England usually bounces back pretty well after a loss too.
Right, and Tennessee's on the wrong end of it. So all right, let's talk about the Sunday games. Minnesota Vikings against New Orleans Saints. Obviously, the New Orleans Saints aren't happy with what happened to them a year ago, and now these two teams get to match up again. How do you size it up, Bill?
Well, I'm kind of riding the boat right now that the Saints are going to blow them out. Last year, I still think that that's in the back of their minds. They got the Vikings right where they want them to be. I think Breeze is laser focused right now, and I kind of like them to go all the way. And I just think they're going to go out there and play a really good game and get that monkey off their back from last year. I like the Vikings. They just don't seem to be able to beat, win the big time games. So this is, I've been waiting for them all year to step up and win one of these games. They haven't done it, and I think they're going into a really tough place. And I just think the Saints are going to keep them pretty good.
Yeah, you know what, Bill? I see a 27-10 New Orleans win here. I think that Minnesota does not perform on the big stage. They lost to the Chicago Bears, which probably could have helped their playoff position a little bit. And, the Bears are a halfway decent team. But again, I will say this from Mike Zimmer's standpoint. I found out earlier tonight that Minnesota's ownership wants him and Rick Spielman back for 2020. So, they got a decent thing going there. I think the Vikings were trying to squelch any rumors that Zimmer could be a possibility for the now vacant Dallas Cowboys job, that Jason Garrett will no longer be the head man, Roman Big D. So I agree with you, Bill. I definitely see New Orleans as a hungry, angry team. And yes, Drew Brees, you can't forget that, he's quarterbacking that team, and Michael Thomas is certainly one of the best wide receivers in football, without a doubt. So
he's been playing really well, particularly at home. I think he's just going to come out and just be hitting on all cylinders, and it's going to be fun to watch. One little sideline for our audience. Guys, if you go to my Facebook page, Bill Winters Facebook, one of my old teammates, Juan Castillo, was named the Bears offensive line coach. So I'm really happy for him. And Juan's been in the NFL as a line coach going on 27 plus years.